Your college football game day has come early.
Goes down the field for Sicky, goes up high. He's got get away from the top speed, and the ball is free. Woo! What a hit! You got barbecue back there?
From underdog triumphs to powerhouse showdowns, we've got your winning playbook covered. It's BetQL U with Chris Mack, RJ Choppy, and John Martin, presented by BetMGM.
And here we go. Time to go bowling. Yeah, all the bowl games, all the good stuff, all the opt-outs, all the coaching changes, all the transfer portal entries, every single last bit of it. You've got us for an extended window, a special 2-hour bowl extravaganza of BetQL U. Happy holidays to you. Whenever you may be listening to this or watching this, whether it's on the Odyssey Sports YouTube channel, whether you're inside your free Odyssey app, AUDACY, whether it's before Christmas, after Christmas, whatever holiday you may or may not be celebrating, whatever parts of your family you're trying to avoid, we appreciate you avoiding them with your BetQL U family. Alongside RJ Choppy and John Martin, I'm Chris Mack. Let's do it, boys. We got some games to talk about. Some of them will involve teams that, let's be honest, most of you haven't even paid attention to this year. Some of them will involve teams that maybe you've watched every single snap of. But whatever it is, we got you covered here for the 2-hour BetQL U Bowl extravaganza. Let's start with the big ones, boys. Let's start with another look at the college football playoff semifinals on New Year's Day. As the lines, it feels like they've settled in, right, for both of these games. The markets are what they are. I don't think we're getting too much fluctuation unless there are any late injuries, perhaps, that go down that we find out about in the final few days leading up to the games. But another look at, first, the Rose Bowl. John, I'll start with you. Number 4, Alabama. Number 1, Michigan. Wolverines favored by just 1.5. Lots of early action on the Tide. I'm right there with the public. That's fine. I'll be square. I'll bet with the public on this one because I think everybody's flooding in on Nick Saban and saying, hey, that's Nick Saban, and he's got multiple weeks to prepare for a game. If anybody can figure out what the weaknesses are in Michigan's number 1 defense, if anybody can figure out how to slow down that run game, it's Nick Saban. And I'll throw on top of it there, I think I'll take Jalen Milroe over J.J. McCarthy right now, the way these guys are playing, John.
Yeah, it is funny how this will work, though. Like, we'll have, you see this with big games. You had the initial sort of move, right? This opened, I think, at 2, and then it got bet down, slightly to Alabama plus 1.5. And then we're going to get to game day on New Year's Day, and it's going to move again. It's going to go up or it's going to go down. It's not going to, it's like for whatever reason, people wait. And that may have something to do with limits, right? On game day, your limits are going to be higher than they are, 10 days, 2 weeks out. If you look at your sharper sports book, sometimes the limits will be posted and they'll be bigger on game day than they are today. There's no question about that. And so I do expect this to move. But I'm with you, and not much about my opinion has changed since, we first talked about it earlier in the month. First of all, when it comes to the public, the public does not have any sort of special skill to lose. They just don't win 55% of the time.
That's their skill,
so
right?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose that is true, but just on any given bet, I tend to kind of throw that stuff out, right? Like, if I was betting along to the public for 150 bets, okay, it's sort of a little different. But we talked about it. I just don't know how Michigan defends the athleticism of this Alabama offense and specifically Jalen Milroe. I just don't think they've seen a quarterback with his skill set, with his repertoire, and I just don't know, how they respond to his mobility. And, he's throwing that ball really confidently. So, unless they're able to find a way to establish a ground game, which Alabama has just been really good against all season long, I just don't really see a path for Michigan. I like to visualize these things, right? Like if I'm going to bet one way or the other, I always try to visualize, okay, well, what would this look like? And I I'm running into a block with Michigan. I can't get there with them. I don't see a path unless Milroe just pisses down his leg, and he hasn't done that, for the last 2.5 months of the season. So it's Bama for me, RJ. I don't know if you've, changed your mind, but it is certainly Bama for me.
I am an elitist SEC, fanboy. No, it's Bama for me. It has been. Look, I've always felt like when you get in these kind of situations that the team that I feel is got the better quarterback is going to wind up winning. I think Miller's a better player than JJ. I don't think it's like light years difference. I think that there's a good chance that you can make a case that either one of the Washington, Texas quarterbacks, Quinn and Penix, are 1 and 2, and then it's 3 and 4 in the other game. But no, I think Bama's the team in this one, and I'd be interested to see how the public versus sharp betting goes as we get closer to kickoff. I know and I was looking at this during the Cowboys-Buffalo game. I mean, that was an easy Buffalo pick for me. I mean, I took one look. The majority of the money was on the Bills, and the majority of the tickets were on the Cowboys. Doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out why. That's where the sharp money is. So, like, that's where it's going to come down to with a lot of these games, is especially when you don't have the access to all these to the backups. I mean, try watching that Marshall UTSA game the other day with Pennington's kid trying to play as a third stringer, for crying out loud. I mean, you have no information on these kids, so you've got to follow the sharps. You can't be going along with the public in these.
Yeah, it's there, and we're going to get into some of those games a little bit later that are like, man, who's playing quarterback for this team now, and how many snaps have they taken, or maybe more accurately, not taken at this point in the season? I do agree. If it comes down to both teams taking away what the other offense does best, and this ends up being a quarterback versus quarterback kind of game, in my opinion. It ends up being Milroe versus McCarthy, and Jalen Milroe's been playing Heisman Trophy caliber football for the last 6 weeks. J.J. McCarthy, Michigan's won games with him throwing for 147 yards or whatever it is. They're not going to be able to get away with that against Alabama. Let's pivot to the late game, the Sugar Bowl. Texas, Washington. Texas still by 4.5 on this one. Have not seen a big move in Washington's direction. I have been all over Washington for the bulk of this season, guys. I started to tap out a little bit late when Penix was dinged up, and they had some ugly wins, in particular on the road in Corvallis. But this is a team that just Penix shows up. He's got top flight receivers. There's no reason for anybody to opt out of this game. I like Penix over Ewers, especially when I take into consideration, RJ, the weapons that each quarterback has around.
Well, look, there's no doubt. I mean, Washington's got, NFL players, 2 NFL wide receivers, an NFL left tackle, an NFL running back, and then Penix, who's going to play in the league too. And it's not like Texas doesn't have that. I mean, Texas is loaded with 4- and 5-star recruits anyway. But no, I think Washington is they're a legitimate. They're a legit football team. There's a lot of like comparisons with the team that beat Texas, Oklahoma, and Washington. Like Washington is just a better version of that. They've got players in the positions that can of importance, of value, that can really impact the game. That's a tough one. It's a tough one to pick because I think Texas has got every advantage here. I mean, they're playing dang near a home game. And it's not like Washington's not going to show up, but that's still going to be a 60-40 Longhorn crowd at the Sugar Bowl. So it's not that far.
Yeah, that's not enough for me. And this is what I don't get about Washington still sitting at 4.5 in this situation. We doubted them going up against Oregon, John, and they shoved it right back in our faces. And we doubted them, like I said, the entire final month of the regular season, and they've shown up and they've shown up and they've shown up. And I don't understand why there hasn't been enough action yet to push this back in Washington's direction, unless it comes in super, super late.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think there's probably a lot of weight assigned to that win over Alabama and Tuscaloosa. I think that's probably a big feather in Texas cap, and probably a little bit of because if you just sort of boil it all down and strip it away, I mean, you're talking about a one playoff team beat the other at their place pretty handily. Now, again, we've talked about it. That was a very different Alabama team, but I can sort of understand from that perspective maybe a little bit of reticence on, getting involved with Washington, under a touchdown here. I said it when we were talking about this game as the matchups were announced. Like, the only hesitation I do have with Texas is that I just don't know really who they are. I mean, they have that one win over Alabama, which is fantastic, which is one of the best wins in college football. But then, you're talking about a Big 12 where they kind of just, they got by Kansas State, they got by TCU, and they lost to Oklahoma, and they just, I just don't know how much they were really tested. And even in those games, like how well they necessarily showed. Now, they won those games, and they're deserving. Don't get me wrong. It's just like in terms of, playoff team versus playoff team, am I really in a place where I want to lay 4, against Washington? I don't think I am. I don't love 4 either, because I mean, you're talking about, you're trying to operate in a very tight window here, but I just don't think I can get to 4 with Texas in this one. I'm just not there, guys.
Yeah, what's interesting, RJ, is as of Thursday morning, this thing also has, and this is what's interesting to me, the total on this, traditionally high total, given what Texas just showed us in the Big 12 championship game, not surprising, given what Washington has done all year with their offense, 63.5. BetQL has it as a 5-star under, and 88% of the money is on the over. So things point that, again, that's as of Thursday morning, the 21st. But this could be interesting to watch. Can Texas light up the scoreboard again? I have my doubts, like John does.
Look, I mean, how the Pac-12 defense historically has been not great, and the Big 12 defense historically has been not great. Like, this is setting up for, like, to me, like this could be one of those 38-35 games, 41-38 games. I think this could be an absolute shootout from the standpoint that, I mean, neither one of these teams is like this elite defensive squad. If you look at it from a historical perspective, the way, Michigan might be this year, or Bama has been, or Georgia has been. You get in these games become track meets, man, and these coaches get aggressive and they don't want to punt and go for it on 4th down. I could easily see the over hitting. I understand why there would be a heavy lean or a lean towards the under, but I could easily see this thing, the over taking this one.
Real quick before we wrap this first segment up here, guys, national title odds as of the morning of Thursday, December 21st. Michigan's plus 190. They're still the favorite. Bama right behind him, 2-1. Texas plus 275. Washington way out there at 7-1. Who do you like? And I'll be honest, I'm tempted to sprinkle a little something on Washington at 7-1 because I believe in them to get past Texas. But then the question is, do they get past whichever defense they have to face in the championship game?
Right.
John?
Yeah, I mean, I think you'd have to sort of, I don't have the calculator in front of me here, but you'd have to if you just kept an open parlay, on Michigan, for example, would that pay better than plus 190? If they were to beat Alabama, and it just all depends, right? It all depends. Like, if Washington upsets Texas, then Michigan's probably going to be a sizable favorite. I'm not really compelled by any of the at this point in the I would just rather bet the team game by game, than try to pick because you're talking about pretty thin value when you get to this point. So I know that's kind of a cop out answer, but I would just bet Washington money line, twice, if I loved it that much, or Michigan money line twice if I loved it that much, and vice versa.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think there's enough value on Washington. I think it's obviously better value than you're getting anywhere else. It's 2.5 times, Texas's, and it's 3 times plus Bama's. So I don't think there's enough value to lay that. I think John's right. Either take Michigan or Bama in each game money line. You probably make out better than you would, especially if it's going to be Bama money line, because they're going to be a slight dog in that.
All right, there's
Would they
four
be?
other New
Would Bama
Year's.
be an underdog? I was going to say, would they be an underdog to Texas? Do we think that, or would it be a pick? Like, what do we think that number would be?
Oh,
I mean, I think the numbers show, the odds to win the title show that they'd be a favorite right now, but they're
very small.
-1.
very small.
Yeah.
But like you're getting a little bit of a bump in the Michigan game if you take Bama in both games. So
maybe 2, maybe. Yeah, but I don't,
Yeah,
I don't
it'll
think you
be
get
inside
better
a
than
field
2,
goal for
2.5
sure.
most. Yeah, absolutely. 4 other New Year's 6 games we want to touch on, and then a slew of other games that we're going to give you either picks or leans on. We're going to give you the most up-to-date information on who's in the portal, who's opting out, coaching changes, everything we can. But again, we touch on the other 4 big New Year's 6 games next, alongside RJ Choppy and John Martin. I'm Chris Mack, and this is BetQLU.
You've been listening to BetQLU, presented by BetMGM. If you missed any of the show, listen back anytime on the new and improved Odyssey app. Let's get back to BetQLU, presented by BetMGM.
And welcome back in alongside John Martin and RJ Choppy. I am Chris Mack, and this is BetQLU, our bowl extravaganza. We have got you covered, touching on absolutely every single bowl game between now and New Year's Day. We've already talked the college football playoff semifinals in the Rose Bowl and Sugar Bowl on New Year's Day. Now, for the rest of the New Year's 6, let's dive in. Some of these games could be really good. Some of them could be clunkers, but let's discuss. We start with the Cotton Bowl. It's Ohio State against Missouri. Missouri laying a point against the Buckeyes? What? Yeah, well, half of the Ohio State team has decided to either opt out and or enter the portal, including quarterback Kyle McCord. Ryan Day is on thin ice after once again losing to Michigan. I don't know if beating Missouri in the Cotton Bowl necessarily buys him any capital back in Columbus, or if this is more for him about just not losing, because losing would be even uglier headed back to Columbus after losing to Michigan the way they did in the big game. RJ, Missouri, I think they've been a pleasant surprise in the SEC. You know, they gave Georgia a scare earlier this year. They've ended up becoming a bit of a feeder system for other big programs with transfers and opt-outs over the last couple of years. I think this game quite simply comes down to, do we get Marvin Harrison Jr. or not? Still an outside chance, at least according to the latest news, that he might decide to play in this thing. He might not. Do we get, RJ, Maserati Marv?
Oh, please. Oh, please. Oh, please. So this is one of those classic games that's it has nothing to do with necessarily the transfers. This is one of those, do you care to play in this games? And, you know, Ohio State is a team that was in the top 4 for a majority of the weeks of the college football playoff selection. Missouri never was. I think that plays a large part of this. Like, I think Ohio State views this as a throwaway game. I think Missouri views this as a statement game, a program-defining game. And I think that in these situations, like half of the bowl games is, forget the opt-outs, it's who cares to play in this thing more. Mm-hmm. And if you can figure that out and you can weed through all the BS and you figure out which team actually cares about this game more, I think it's clearly Missouri in this one. I don't think Ohio State cares a lick about coming here. It's going to be at Arlington, Texas. It's going to be at Jerry World. It's a great stadium, but it ain't the stadium they wanted to play in. And quite frankly, it's not like they're going to the Miami or Tampa where it's going to be 85 degrees. I mean, it could be 40 degrees here. They're not thrilled about this. Missouri is thrilled about this. This was a goal for Missouri. Missouri's goal was to make a New Year's 6 game. Ohio State's goal was win a national championship. I think that's the difference.
Yeah, motivational edge, John, all on Missouri's side, you would think, in this one.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think Jerry World is certainly a nice little venue. It's no, Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium right here in Memphis. I mean, I don't know if you guys have, ever been there or
I've seen pictures.
Seen
it's on the bucket list,
Yeah, well, we got $150 million renovations coming, bud. All right, so you just wait. Till we spruce that thing up. I agree.
Hail the mighty FedEx! Thank you, FedEx. We appreciate everything you do for the wonderful community of Memphis.
Hey, the GOAT, man, no question. Hey, but I would say on the motivational thing, RJ is correct. I did play Ohio State plus 2.5. It is down to 1. I moved markets. That's not a a new thing here on this show. And the reason why I do like Ohio State, at least with the points here, is because I do think there is going to be some motivation. Devin Brown is going to get the start for Ohio State at quarterback, and he was in the quarterback battle with Kyle McCord before the season started. And at times, it was close. That's what reports were. And he's been given the indication that if he has a great showing, that he's going to put himself, in position to be the early front runner for 2024 there at Ohio State. So he himself, the quarterback, is going to be motivated to have a great game. And then Ryan Day talked about yesterday, I think, that, he's going to allow players to make their own decisions on opt-outs, but he said, quote, "We've got a good group playing in this one." So take that for what it's worth. I know a couple of guys have transferred out, and so and getting ready for the NFL. So I know that is definitely a factor here. But Ohio State is a better team than Missouri. So if you're telling me that if 80% and maybe Marvin Harrison Jr. Wants to do the quarterback a solid and the program a solid and play one more game, in a big time matchup, then I think Ohio State definitely wins this one outright. I like the points though. I took the 2.5, obviously, and I kind of like the spot with the quarterback fighting for his job.
One where opt-outs and the portal have, I think, very little, if almost no effect, because we haven't seen a ton of opt-outs or guys go to the transfer portal. The Peach Bowl, number 11 Ole Miss against number 10 Penn State. Nittany Lions favored by 4 right now. The only player of note, really, is Chop Robinson for Penn State, who's opted out to prepare for the NFL draft. It looks like we're going to get basically what each of these two teams looked like most of the season, which is wild to think about in this day and age. Ole Miss relatively unscathed. Like I said, Manny Diaz on the way out as defensive coordinator, Penn State. He's left for Duke already. I don't know if that impacts the Penn State defense, John, but this might be the best of the 4 New Year's 6 games that we have other than the semifinals.
Yeah, I hate HATE backing Lane Kiffin in these bowl games. I don't know what it is, but it's just like Ole Miss stops caring when you get to these bowl games. Like last year, they got absolutely housed by Texas Tech. I mean, in a team that was just not even close in terms of talent. And I want to say most players played in that one. But Lane's lost 2 straight bowl games. Penn State, I feel like, is just – and I think they're appropriately favored. And I will say there is a difference just contextually between being a 3.5-point favorite like Ole Miss probably was last year, I believe, and being a 3.5-point underdog this year. So it is a little different. But, man, Ole Miss always looks so unhappy to be here and so disinterested in these bowl games. And so the only way I could ever consider is Penn State here. This feels like a James Franklin, we're going to go out there and we're going to give it everything we got type of game. And it's like a Lane Kiffin's like, I'm going to hit the bar the night before. I'm going to hang out with my 25-year-old girlfriend and we're going to just enjoy the week. But, we don't really care whether we win or lose. So it'll be Penn State for me or nothing.
I agree. Lane is going to be at Magic City, and then he's going to head on over to the varsity and get himself a chili dog. All right, that's what's going to happen to Lane Kiffin this week in Atlanta, or that week. He is. I totally agree. I don't get why it is, but it doesn't matter what bowl they go to, they just don't show up. They never show up under Lane Kiffin. I don't know if he just stops carrying or what. Doesn't want to put anything out there on tape for next year. I have no idea what it is. But I would if I was going to bet this one at all, it would absolutely be on the Penn State side. I could see the over, or I can see playing a total in this one. I mean, because Ole Miss defense may not even show up, and Penn State's got a terrible offense, comparatively speaking. But Ole Miss may not have any defense, and I mean, it may want to be one of those games where Penn State gets 350 rush yards, and they just roll it up, and they win this game 38-24 or something.
Well, I mean, you talked about it. This is where there to me is a clear motivational advantage for the Big Ten team. I mean, you're right. I don't think Ole Miss is going to want to tackle. So it's Penn State or nothing.
All right, another one that has motivation clearly involved, and whether there's any of it or on one side or the other, is the Orange Bowl. Georgia, Florida State, the Snub Bowl. Georgia by 2 touchdowns. I know they're clearly the better team. I know when you start to talk about some of the players who've already opted out for Florida State, Johnny Wilson, Jared Verse, some of the guys who've gone to the portal already, like Bless Harris and Daughtry Mitchell. There are plenty of issues to worry about with Florida State as far as the talent that will actually be on the field. It's the exact opposite with Georgia. Carson Beck's going to be out there. I got no worries about the talent on the field. It's all about, do they even care to be there, Georgia? After the last 2 years of football that they've played, most of these guys, where every single week has been a fight to the death to prove that they are still the top team in the country. Florida State comes in, or I guess I should say Georgia comes in because they're playing in Miami. Florida State hosts Georgia, basically, and gets to try and show the world why they deserve to be in the playoff, damn it, and why you screwed us. And Mike Norvell is going to have the guys that are playing spitting fire. I have no idea why this thing is still at 2 touchdowns, other than, again, I get it, the talent disparity. I don't think it's big enough, though, when you consider the motivational disparity, Choppy, in that, what the hell is Georgia there and playing for?
They're not playing for anything. And, Florida State is playing for – I think the play here, if anything, I mean, the value is on Florida State money line. Let's be honest. Like, if you really think that the motivation is going to play that big of a factor, the 425 is the value on that. I wouldn't touch it. I think it's a losing bet. I think you're right. All the motivation is on Florida State's side. They are just so strapped talent wise in this game. Like they've got forget the quarterback situation. They got so many guys are going to opt out for the draft. I mean, like they've got a ton. I think it's just a simple matter of like, man, these guys, like they are just undermanned, and that's going to be a major problem for them. I agree. The motivation, the absolute desire to prove everyone wrong that they should have bet in the Final Four, it's there. But dude, it's like the spirit's willing, but you know what is weak, dude. It just you can't.
Yeah.
I could not in good faith take Florida State in this game because of that.
This is, John, 425 on the money line might be crazy, but 2 touchdowns, is it that big a disparity?
Well, I'm gonna be, I guess, on an island here. The SEC teams typically, when they get in these spots and they're not in the playoff, typically you see like they just kind of mail it in. So historically, that definitely does happen. I think this one is a little different for a couple of reasons. One, Georgia was left out too. Georgia lost 1 game this season, and it was the SEC championship game. And I know that we didn't obviously expect them to get in because of that, but from their perspective, they got to be spitting nails too, because they handled business for 12 games, and then they get to the championship game and they play a damn good Alabama team and they come up just short, and that's just the end of the road for them. And Florida State, on the other hand, is it's a disaster in terms of their opt-outs. I mean, their best receiver is out. Their best defensive end is out. Their best running back is out. We saw how bad it looked, for example, against Louisville. I mean, they won the game, but could only muster 16 points. We saw how bad it looked, against them. Imagine a fully loaded Georgia defense and a fully loaded Georgia offense, which is what you're dealing with. So I think 14 is probably not enough given the personnel situation. Because I think this Georgia team is more motivated than they'll probably get credit for. And I do think they will definitely out pretty inspired. And because of those disparities, I can only look Georgia here. They blow teams out, man. They enjoy that. I mean, they killed TCU in the championship game. I mean, they didn't stop. And so I kind of think that's what's going to happen to Florida State here, unfortunately.
We'll see. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. We do, and maybe I'm over focused on the motivational aspects. And Choppy, you bring up a good point too. Georgia does everything right for the entire season, and they may walk in here and be just as angry as Florida State. So we'll see how it plays out. We got one more New Year's Six game that I want to touch on. We'll do that in the Fiesta Bowl, and then every other game between now and January 1st. We're going to mention it. At the very least, mention them. Tell you what we think about the numbers in each of them. Tell you what we think about the opt-outs and whether we've got any leans or plays in any of them. All on the way. We are locked in. We have got our bowl extravaganza rolling. Don't forget, get to BetQL.com. All the 5-star plays. I mentioned one earlier to you, whether it's sides, totals, spreads, money lines, player props. If you're allowed to bet those are all in there. In the BetQL app, download it today and there is literally intelligence on every single one of these games that we are talking about during our 2-hour bowl extravaganza alongside John Martin and RJ Choppy. I'm Chris Mack, and this is BetQLU.
You've been listening to BetQLU, presented by BetMGM. If you missed any of the show, listen back anytime on the new and improved Odyssey app. Let's get back to BetQLU, presented by BetMGM.
Our BetQLU Bowl extravaganza rolls on alongside RJ Choppy and John Martin. I'm Chris Mack, and we are going to get to all the second and third tier and hell, maybe even fourth tier and other bowl games we can find. Maybe we'll get to, I don't know, your kids' backyard two-hand touch game. If there are odds, we will try to get to it within the next few minutes here on BetQLU. Not that John didn't just get back from a week in Vegas and needs a break, but I think it's probably better that you get right back. Get right back on the horse. Right back on the horse. A little hair of the dog,
the lifestyle,
my friend.
Man.
Keep it going. Keep it going. So if
True
there are
to
bowl
it, not
games,
new to it.
we will find them and we will talk about them, even if it's ever so briefly, in the next couple of minutes here on BetQLU. Let's wrap up our discussion about the New Year's Six games, though, with the final one we did not get to touch on, the Fiesta Bowl, Liberty against Oregon. And not just Oregon laying 17.5 against Conference USA champ Liberty, but Bo Nix reported to be playing in this game as well. Troy Franklin has declared for the draft. So, look, there are a couple guys that won't play, but Liberty's lost some players to the portal as well. My first thought on this one, John, when it first was announced was, oh, well, nobody's going to play for Oregon, and this game doesn't mean anything to them. And for Liberty, this is the Super Bowl and the World Series and everything wrapped up into one, and they're going to come in, much like I just got done talking about Florida State, they're going to come in looking to prove that they belong with the big boys. But the more I sit back and think about this, especially if Nix is playing, this is just going to be a bloodbath, I anticipate. Am I wrong? 17.5 may not be enough.
Yeah, I actually have I have a unit on 16, and I have a unit on 17. So, we'll keep that third unit to ourselves. But in terms of right now, I've got 2 on Oregon. I agree with everything you said. Oregon is going to be, I think, highly motivated for Bo Nix to go out, on top, on a good note, on a dominant note. And then when you look at who Liberty has played this year, I mean, it's kind of a joke. They haven't seen anybody that comes close to the size, the strength, the power of Oregon, on the offensive and defensive lines. And again, I know there's going to be some guys that don't play in this, and I know that there's going to be some skill position guys that aren't playing in this for Oregon. But I mean, you're still talking about Conference USA here, and a Liberty team that has just beaten up on bad teams all year long. I think the firepower is going to be too much. I think Oregon's going to pretty much be able to score at will. So if you tell me Bo Nix playing the whole game, then there's no shenanigans, no shenanigans, then yeah, Oregon's going to absolutely destroy them in this game. No question in my mind about it.
Man, you guys act like you haven't watched a Liberty game all year. Neither of us.
They haven't played anybody. Who they played?
They're losing a combined 900 snaps on their starting defensive line, too, between 3 guys jumping to the portal. I don't know. I don't feel good about. How do you
the
Flames?
Give me the logic on backing, since you love this Liberty team so much. Give me the logic on why you love them.
They got the best quarterback on the field. That's the reason. Caden Salter is the best quarterback. Stop it. You laugh. Okay? You laugh. I saw this kid play in high school.
Are you talking about if Bo Nix comes down with food poisoning or
no? Salter should have won the Heisman Trophy. He was the best quarterback all year. Guy's an absolute monster of a player. Stop. Don't laugh at me. Don't laugh. Listen, I'm trying here. Okay?
I mean, he was successful. He was very successful. I'll give you that.
Yeah, he was a monster. No, it's
he was Liberty a player. He showed up and played football.
Stop it! He did not show up and play football.
I mean, 31 touchdowns, 5 picks, but he's playing against Texas high schools basically.
Yeah, I know. And Texas high schools do play better defense in the Pac-12. Look, I mean, listen, let's not act like Oregon is I'm trying to think. look, who did they beat that's ranked this year? Who did Oregon beat that's ranked?
Let's pull up the schedule.
Oregon
I
State,
guess.
they won.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
we thought USC was we thought USC was good. They're not.
All right. Utah with a
But-
third stringer.
Right.
Like
Okay.
we're putting them in a category I'm not sure they should be, and now they're going to win the game. Like they're just so much more talented than Liberty, and I think this is too much. I think this is too high of a spread. It's too high of a spread for me. I probably would stay away from this one. I do think they're clearly the better team. There's no doubt about that one. But like there's a motivational factor that plays in here.
Right.
And Liberty certainly has that on their side. You're right. They're missing a lot of guys. Their defensive line, it's gonna be tough. And if Bo Nix is gonna play the entire game, it's gonna be tough. But this is a number that I don't know, man. I don't know that I can get down with that.
Liberty Bibberty. Real quick, so before we get into these next, the second tier, third tier of games, we were having a conversation off the air during one of the breaks about just the ridiculous nature of, even if guys have decided to jump into the portal, but they have not actually left yet, they're not allowed to play with their teams. And so in some cases, not a lot, but you may see a guy who's entered the portal and hasn't decided to leave yet and may end up sticking around. Who knows? That still happens sometimes when guys enter the portal who isn't playing with his team. Or I think, moreover, just the idea of the portal being opened during bowl season needs to be looked at, John. Like, if they would take a page out of some of the pro sports leagues and make the opening of the portal like free agency day for the NBA in the middle of the summer or for the NFL in the spring. On those free agency days, those sports and those leagues are talked about more than the actual games that are being played in other sports and leagues. People are more interested. Think about like the transfer windows in European soccer. People are more interested. There's more news around those than there are the actual games being played. And if you waited until, say, January 20th to open the portal, after all the games are over and all the confetti's been swept up off the floor, I think it would, serve college football and the players who do want to transfer better, but it would also serve these bowl games better in that some of them are going to be missing essential players because they've entered the portal. And what if one of these players had an opportunity to play and put up a huge game? Some receiver wants to leave Georgia State, for example. So because he didn't get recruited out of high school, he was a 3-star maybe, and he wants to go to an SEC school, but he hasn't decided where he wants to go yet. And he goes out and balls out in a famous Toastery Bowl and puts up 12 catches for 156 yards and 2 touchdowns. Might get him a better offer. Might drive up a little bit of a bidding war between the programs that he wants to go to. It's something college football needs to consider. I know there's no centralized power, really, that anybody listens to anyway, who could make that happen. But, the NCAA wants to rule over stupid stuff like whether second-time transfers can play immediately or not, or whether they want to hear waivers or not. Maybe this is something they should be more focused on.
Yeah. I mean, you are technically, I think, allowed to play while you're in the portal. Most do not. Most aren't even with their teams, right? Most just leave and they transfer somewhere else, and that's the end of it. Like in the you mentioned, I think that was the famous Toastery Bowl, the Old Dominion game where they were up, 28-7. This kid, Caden Beltcamp, starts the game in the transfer portal and inactive. Okay, and he comes in after the starting quarterback, pisses on his leg, down his leg, and he comes in, he looks like Joe Montana. I don't know if we're allowed to curse on here. Well, I guess I'll figure out later. But
yeah, we'll work that out in the end.
The truth of college football bowl season is that it has been a complete and total shit show. And the reason, and I say that because I was watching the UTSA game against Marshall. I actually had a bet on UTSA. And that game was an abject disaster. Frank Harris is in the press conference a day before talking about how he can't wait to play. And this is his one last ride. He's been there for 7 years, and then he doesn't play at all. He has some injury that keeps him out of the game. The Marshall running back, Ali, who was killing it in the first half and helped Marshall get out to a 14-0 lead. He doesn't even show up in the second half. The coach benches him inexplicably for no reason. Played the first half, benched him in the second. What are we doing here? I think you really have to exercise a lot of caution when it comes to these games because you don't know what the coaches are thinking. You don't know what the players are thinking. Like, you can start a game and you may not finish the game. So I just think from a handicapping perspective, and yes, there is change needed. We could push this thing back 2 weeks and it would be just as effective, and it would make these bowl games a little bit easier to digest and a little bit more interesting to watch. But in terms of handicapping them and betting them, I would tell anybody watching this, and we're going to break down most of the games, but do so while you're exercising extreme caution because, like, if you just want some action, and you look at it like I'm going to go play some blackjack, perfect. This is good. But if you think there's like some kind of edge here, I would caution you because you don't know what these coaches or players are going to do even after the half.
Amen. You've no idea. That was a nightmare in Frisco at that UTSA Marshall game. It's a nightmare. That's the problem with the structure they've set, and it's the NFL is the fact that it doesn't hurt the kids in the NFL draft to skip out on bowl games. That the NFL doesn't take they're not committed, they're not good teammates, they don't punish them, which I think is fine. I have no problem with that. That plays into it. The fact that the transfer portal window opens before these bowl games is another part of it. Make it open after. You could do that, but you're never going to have a situation where it's like the NFL free agency or the NBA. Quite frankly, because sports talk radio hosts are scared to talk about college sports because they don't know the players. That's the reality. The reason they talk about the NBA and NFL free agency is because it's easy to know the players. They don't talk about baseball. They don't tell you about baseball games because they're scared. They don't know how to play. They don't know the sport. It's not because they don't know how to break it down. They're scared to talk about college football. I mean, look. I do radio in Dallas Fort Worth, but you've got to really look to talk about college football here because the hosts don't know enough about all the players around the country. They're too scared to talk about it, and they're probably going to hate me for saying that. What the hell do I care? I'm on vacation.
They already
this week,
hate
so
you, Choppy. Don't worry about it. Yeah, it's cool.
Look, I'm doing a full heel turn in 2024, baby. Full heel turn. But yeah, it's that's the reason they don't know the sport. They don't know the players. So they're chicken, what, to talk about it. So they won't.
Mm-hmm.
If you could leave the swearing to John, that would be great. Thank you.
So that's what I did there, right? I did that. Let him do it. He's wearing his old Vancouver Grizzlies hat. Yeah. He's got that.
Yeah. Let him be the salty-tongued bad boy that all the females who listen and watch this show line up and go, "Oh, John!" All two of them. All right, we got all these games that you don't know who might be playing in them. You don't know what coaches might be there. You don't know what the motivation factors are for all these teams. Doesn't matter. We're going to touch on each and every single one of them. Coming up next as we continue to roll through our BetQLU Bowl Extravaganza alongside RJ Choppy and John Martin. I'm Chris Mack, and this is BetQLU.
You've been listening to BetQLU, presented by BetMGM. If you missed any of the show, listen back anytime on the new and improved Odyssey app. Let's get back to BetQLU, presented by BetMGM.
And our bowl extravaganza rolls on alongside RJ Choppy and John Martin. I'm Chris Mack. 25 games, count them, 25 games we are about to touch on in less than an hour. How are we going to do that? Magic, just magic. John's going to swear. Choppy's going to call out everybody else in the radio industry. I'm going to just sit here and hold on to my ass and hopefully we get through the whole thing. But here we go. Let's start in beautiful Montgomery, Alabama. Saturday, December 23rd, a noon Eastern kick in the Camellia Bowl. I'll be honest, nobody really knows how to say it. All that we know is that it's actually played at a stadium called the Crampton Bowl, which sounds like a prank we would play on each other in college. Hey, we went to Ben and Pat's apartment, and I left them a Crampton Bowl. But nope, it's a stadium in Alabama. It's about half the size of most Texas high school football stadiums. Choppy, you would be familiar. Let's start with Arkansas State, laying 3, John, against Northern Illinois. A couple of 6-6 juggernauts meeting in the Camellia Bowl. Do you have any thoughts on this game whatsoever?
Absolutely. I actually played Arkansas State minus 2.5. I'm not afraid. I mean, you guys act like I don't want the smoke. I want all the smoke. I'll play some of these dumbass games. Arkansas State's play a lot better, of late. I mean, I only say that because they could not have possibly played worse, the first couple of weeks of the season. But I think they made a quarterback switch, and they've actually, to get to a bowl game after that start, 73-0 to Oklahoma, and then 37-3 against Memphis. They go from Shrout to Rayner, and it did make a big difference. They put up 77 on Texas State. So I actually like them in this game. I think they find a way to get it done. I bet it at 2.5. A 3's a little different, but give me Arkansas State, Red Wolves.
This man, Choppy, this man tried telling us that he wasn't paying attention to the second and third tier bowl games. Meanwhile, he's got 500 words of capping done on each one of them.
First of all, it is the Camellia Bowl. Okay, it's a plant. You're obviously not a horticulturist. It's a plant. It's a great flower. It's a wonderful flower. It comes in red and white and all different colors. The fact that anybody is backing Butch Jones blows my mind. Now, he is good against the spread in bowl games, but the only thing he does. The only thing he does is he wins. He covers bowl spreads. So I would lean on Arkansas State in this one.
All right, up the road while they're playing that one in Birmingham, they'll be playing the appropriately named Birmingham Bowl. Troy laying 7.5 against Duke. Both teams without their departing head coaches. Riley Leonard gone as well. Troy and Duke. John, what do you got for me? Go ahead. Give me 750 words on Troy and Duke in the Birmingham Bowl.
I can't give you that at all. I've actually covered the Birmingham Bowl. Is it at Legion or is it at a different venue now?
I think it's still
I think it's at a different. It's at Protective Stadium.
The hell is that?
So I think is that a different place because I think it is a different venue because the Legion Field was an absolute dump, and that's when I hear Birmingham Bowl, that's what I think about. Just a complete.
Oh, you know what? I think this is the new UAB stadium. I think is what it is.
Yeah, it is. It is. So I mean, congrats to them that they don't have to play in Legion Field anymore because that was just blight. I have nothing. I guess I would be forced to take the 7.5 here just because I 7.5 for Troy against an ACC team just feels kind of extreme. But I have nothing on this game other than that.
Choppy?
Nothing on it. Generally when you lose a quarterback of Riley Leonard's caliber, you're going to have a drop-off. But I'm with John. Troy being 7.5 over an ACC team seems a bit much, even though it is Duke. And, how much of Duke's success this year was, their head coach and their quarterback. So I would stay away. I've got nothing. Not betting this one.
Duke plus 250 on the money line. Okay. Famous Idaho Potato Bowl. Georgia State against Utah State. Georgia State without their top wide receiver, their stud running back, and their starting right tackle. They've all moved on into the portal. Utah State is down to their third string quarterback. Totals at 61.5. All those absences on offense, I might lean under on this, Choppy. What do you got?
I got Utah State minus 2.5. I don't really have a reason why. That's what my buddy who's got a computer program picked out, spit out for me. He says take Utah State minus 2.5. He said don't ask questions, just go with it. And I said, you know what? I'm not going to ask questions. I'm going to go with it. I'm taking Utah State the 2.5.
John,
I mean, why? You know what I mean?
Because it's the famous Idaho Potato Bowl. That's why.
Yeah,
because it's the famous Idaho Potato Bowl.
It is
Bowl.
It is the famous Idaho, but there is nothing famous about either one of these teams. If these teams sort of, got sucked up into a black hole, nobody would notice. So I just nothing. Zero.
Be a lot of empty hotel rooms in Boise. I know that much. Armed Forces Bowl. Fort Worth, Texas, Choppy, not far from you. James Madison against Air Force. JMU's staff has basically entirely vacated the premises, or mostly vacated the premises. Kurt Signetti off to Indiana, took most of his assistants with him. JMU had to hire five temporary coaches just to get through the practices leading up to this game. They literally went to like a temp agency. No, they didn't. But it would be funny if they did. It's an Armed Forces Bowl, and Air Force is one of the teams. Who do you think is going to win, even with James Madison laying 1.5, Choppy?
I think James Madison's going to win. Again, this is a motivational type game, right? And the other thing is there are a ton of players that have been made available for this game for James Madison that entered the transfer portal. Like, there's only 2 guys that are going to be missing this game. The rest of them are in the portal, but they're going to play. They've been made available somehow. I have no idea why or how. But this is like they've never been in this situation. This might as well be the Super Bowl for these guys. So let me. It's not going to be it's not an elite venue. Amon Carter Stadium's not this great place to go. Fort Worth's cool. It's if you're going to come to Texas, Fort Worth's the spot to go, not Dallas. Forget about all that nonsense. Come to Fort Worth. That's real Texas. But I think James Madison's the play here. If there is one, they're the only team with motivation. Like, this is a motivation situation for them.
John, you back in the Armed Forces in this one?
I am, actually, because I unlike Choppy, am appreciative of our military. And for the freedoms that they allow us to even do stupid things
and
like
I'm
that.
Proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free.
Exactly. Yeah, James Madison's quarterback's not playing this one, right? McLeod, he's into the transfer portal, so I think it's a lot to ask. And Air Force does have some opt-outs. And I would say, to hell with those deserters. Lock them up and throw away the key. But I think Air Force, I think about the first 5-6 weeks of this season, they were definitely one of the better teams in college football. And I think that triple option is really hard to prepare against. You better be motivated because you got to defend that damn triple option, and that's not easy. So I'll take the points with Air Force plus 2.5. Give them to me.
Old Gitmo John locking people up and throwing away the key. The 68 Ventures Bowl in South Alabama. And guess who gets to play in it? South Alabama. Laying 17 in a glorified home game against Eastern Michigan. Lots of important offensive pieces up in the air on both sides here, including the starting quarterback on each side. Of note, Chris Creighton, the head coach at Eastern Michigan, is 4-1 against the spread in bowl games, for what it's worth, John.
Yeah, I think South Alabama is much better. I mean, I think about the teams they played. I mean, they beat the crap out of Oklahoma State earlier in the year. I think Eastern Michigan's probably a little bit out of its weight class here. And so I know 16 is a massive spread. It's a massive number, but you're going from playing teams like Ball State and Kent State to playing meat and potatoes. South Alabama team is going to be physical and that's played a big schedule. I like South Alabama in this one.
68 Ventures is an investment company in Alabama.
Yes.
That's all I got. I have nothing else in this game.
Awesome.
This is, I would
That's an
totally.
angle.
I'm with John.
The fix
South
is in.
Alabama, they're completely much better than Eastern whoever.
That's the kind of research we're looking for here. Is if we don't know the bowl game sponsors, I don't know how we're supposed to bet on them. Las Vegas Bowl. John was just out there and somehow didn't spend any time in jail despite spending a week in Las Vegas. Utah laying 6.5 against Northwestern. Total 41.5. I know Utah's defense, yada, yada, yada. Northwestern, a disastrous Big Ten West offense. 41.5, though, John. Too low?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, Northwestern can play some ugly games. I do like the side, though. I do like the side with Northwestern in this one. They ended the season pretty strong. And I think, again, when you start talking about these programs that don't have necessarily like a super past, a super, extensive tradition in terms of, the postseason, I think they do get up for spots like this. So inside a touchdown, I'll definitely be I'll be taking the Northwestern Wildcats here plus 6.5. Happy to do it.
I'm taking Northwestern 6.5 as well. I'm on this game. This is one of the games that I have. And look, I mean, they're one of the teams that's losing hardly nobody in the transfer portal for this game. So they've got basically their entire squad.
All right, Hawaii Bowl, Coastal Carolina, San Jose State. One team used to playing out west. Another team used to playing on a beach, pretty much, from Myrtle Beach in Coastal Carolina. San Jose State laying 10.5 in this one to the Chanticleers. Choppy, do you have anything on the Hawaii Bowl?
Got nothing in the Hawaii Bowl. I do know this: the San Jose State only has 4 guys in the transfer portal, and Coastal Carolina might have the most in all of the sport during this bowl season. So you'd probably be better off leaning towards San Jose State.
John?
Yeah, I've actually got the under in this game. I have under 54. I know it's down to 53.5 now. And I like the under for all the reasons that RJ mentioned, because I mean, Coastal lost sort of everything on offense. I don't know how they score. I just don't know how that. I think San Jose State will be able to move the ball, but I just don't know how Coastal Carolina is going to generate offense here. So, if you don't want to lay the 10, I think the under is still a good bet there at 53.5.
Day after Christmas, when you wake up and the last thing you want to do is look at your credit card statements, let's pretend like it didn't happen and let's watch the Quick Lane Bowl as Bowling Green takes on a losing Minnesota squad, the only 5-7 team to gain bowl eligibility this year. The Gophers laying 3.5 at beautiful Ford Field against Bowling Green. Total 39.5. Okay, 38.5 now. I may take the under just so I can sit there, fall asleep while watching this, and then wake up and see that I'm still under and be happy with it, John.
I love betting unders in football. It's one of my favorite things to do because I feel like nothing ever happens. And so, when I just get to sit here and root for third down incompletions, which happen quite a bit in college football, it's a good day for me. I love NFL unders too. The bet I hate making the most is an NFL over, because I just feel like lapses never. Yeah, I know the games do get over, but I don't ever want to bet it. I think Minnesota -4 is fine. I think PJ Fleck is exactly the kind of guy that'll be like, we're 5-7 and we got to go out there and make the most of this opportunity. And he's going to rah him up and stuff. That's what he does. So he's going to roll the boat on Bowling Green. I know that it's not going to look great. It's not going to be super dynamic, but I just think that, if you're telling me that most guys are going to go, then I would suspect that Minnesota's physicality overpowers Bowling Green in this one.
Yep, I agree. It's got 19-13 written all over it. It'll be a cover and an under. I think that I would take the 3.5, 4 points. I think Minnesota wins this one.
All right, we keep rolling on some of those post-Christmas games as our BetQLU Bowl extravaganza rolls on. 8 games down, 17 more to slam into the next half hour or so. Alongside John Martin and RJ Choppy, I'm Chris Mack. This is BetQLU.
You've been listening to BetQLU, presented by BetMGM. If you missed any of the show, listen back anytime on the new and improved Odyssey app. Let's get back to BetQLU, presented by BetMGM.
Yeah, we're ripping through them. Our bowl extravaganza rolls on. Last segment, we got through 8 games. That's the efficiency with which we work here alongside John Martin and RJ Choppy. I'm Chris Mack. This is BetQLU. Thanks for joining us however you get us, whether it's on the YouTube Odyssey Sports channel, whether it's inside your Odyssey app, AUDACY. It's free. Download it today. Take us with you throughout the holiday season. If you get it as a podcast, then hey, it's perfect. You just consume every few games the day before they're played, and you know exactly what you need to know, hopefully. And don't forget, double check. John made this point earlier, double check everything, because you never know who's going to opt out last minute, who's going to decide to transfer last minute, who's going to come down with a phantom injury or a real injury last minute, what coach may leave for someplace. Make sure you're doing your homework on these bowl bets, because this time of year can be bananas. Let's get back to December 26th, the day after Christmas. You're just laying around, watching the kids play with the toys, maybe playing with your own toys. I don't know. That's between you and your toys. First Responder Bowl, Texas State laying 5.5 points against Rice in Dallas. I have nothing on this game, guys. I'll be honest. Absolutely nothing on Texas State and Rice, John.
Well, good news for you is that I do. I got Texas State minus 3.5 earlier in the week. These. I will say, like, I feel I'm not trying to sound like, oh, I'm so smart, I got this at a better number. It's just like if these spreads take any money at all, they're going to move. They're going to be really sensitive to any bets and any kind of news. So Texas State had one of the more underrated surprise seasons in all of college football. RJ, you should probably know that, being that you are in Texas and you're responsible for knowing everything that happens in that state. Yeah. So, I mean, this whole idea that, you're just not along with it, agreeing, you need to know what's going on in your neighborhood, man. But yeah, their win total on the year was just 4. And they went over that, in the first, 6, 7, 8 games of the season. Really good job and a really well-coached team there at Texas State. So I got them 3.5 over Rice, and I think they get it done.
I have it at 5. I was a little late to the party, but I still took it at 5. This is their first bowl game. This is a big deal. It's a big deal for a school formerly known as Southwest Texas State. So give me Texas State and the 5 points. I will take that. It's a good story. It really is what they've done this year over the last couple of years since really trying to become a football program, a real football program. So first bowl game, they are going to have a crowd. There's going to be a ton of people there rooting for Texas State.
Yeah, it should be a decent atmosphere, if nothing else, right? Nightcap, if you want to call it that, on Tuesday night. Guaranteed rate bowl in Phoenix. Kansas laying 12.5 to UNLV. That's not as interesting, though, John, as the total to me, 64.5. Give me my guy, Brendan Marion, and the Rebels. I know they had a bad showing in the Mountain West Conference title game against Boise, but I think that they look to light up the scoreboard in this one. I'm going to take the over with these two offenses, 64.5. I know the Jayhawks lost their offensive coordinator, obviously. Thank you very much. We appreciate it out here. But Kansas, UNLV, in the Guaranteed Rate Bowl. Give me the over, John. I want points.
Yeah, this feels like one to me where, most of the Jayhawks are going to play in this one. That's what Lance Leopold said earlier this month. And I could absolutely understand and see a scenario where they really care about this one, and they want to do it for the program. And so you have that going on. So if you combine not as many opt-outs with a super motivated team to deliver a bowl win, I think UNLV's obviously they had a great year. They overachieved under Barry Odom, and that's fantastic. But I like Kansas in this one. Probably get it done by 2 touchdowns. That feels right to me.
I think the over. I think the over is the play. That's a big number. But Lance Leipold's really, really good in bowl games. I would probably take the over though. I don't know how UNLV is going to stop Kansas all that much. So give me the over.
Yeah. Wednesday, December 27th, early afternoon game, 2 Eastern, 1 Central, Military Bowl, Virginia Tech laying 10.5 to Tulane in Annapolis. John, what's the read on this one? 10.5 seems a little big for a middling ACC program against a Tulane team that's still trying to prove themselves, I think.
Yeah, the difference, of course, is that Pratt opted out. And so Tulane is going to be and their top receiver opted out. So they're and Willie Fritz is gone. It's Virginia Tech or nothing for me in this spot. This is not my Tulane team. This is a very different version of, the one we've kind of come to know and expect over the last few years. So they will not be representing the AAC in this one. They will be acting as an independent.
You've stripped them of that opportunity.
For the record. Yeah, they will not be
honor.
AAC reps in this one. I mean, they're just not whole. I mean, it's just one of those teams that got ravaged by the transfer portal and the coaching staff leaving. So I think Virginia Tech will be a little bit more up for this one, and they'll probably feast is my guess. So it would be Virginia Tech for me.
I'm out on this. Tulane is very, very they're not a team that could withstand a lot of transfers and losses to drafts and such and still be able to compete. That's just the difference between a G5 and a Power 5 team. But I don't trust Virginia Tech at all, so I would just stay away.
All right, Duke's Mayo Bowl later that day, Wednesday, the afternoon of December 27th. Here we go. Buckets of mayonnaise getting dumped on somebody. Won't be Drake May. He's not playing. So there you go. There's one big piece of this one gone. West Virginia thusly laying 6.5 against the Tar Heels in Charlotte, John.
Yep, it's under. Call me the Undertaker this bowl season. And again, the logic is, I want to hear the gong. I want to hear the gong when we start talking about these. You know what I'm saying? Here comes Taker. Here he comes, the Undertaker.
What?
Yeah, I mean, you're just
you got to turn the lights off then. You got to turn the lights off
right.
and then bring them back on when you.
Let's go. No. In all seriousness, it's just all these different QBs opting out, not playing. You're trying to find this stuff out on the fly. I took under 57. I don't know what the number is now, but I just don't see this being a shootout whatsoever. I think 57 is just way too high when you start getting into backup quarterbacks. I don't think that's what we're going to get here. So give me the under here with some backup quarterback play.
My biggest question with this game is nothing to do with the teams. It's, for 100 years, Hellman's was the only mayonnaise anybody heard of. And all of a sudden, the last 4 years, here comes this Duke character with their mayonnaise. Mm-hmm. But their mayonnaise has been out for 100 years as well. But how come nobody ever heard about it for 100 years? Did it just was just
Choppy.
kind of
marketing?
This is pre-Twitter. Nobody heard about things out before social media. It's been around for 100 years. It came out 4 years after Hellman's. How did nobody ever hear about this? All they heard about was Hellman's mayonnaise for 100 years.
Because they had to sponsor. This is why you get weird bowl sponsors, so that you can dump stuff on people, and then people can buy that product. So there you go. You answered your own question, I think, Choppy. Holiday Bowl, Louisville laying 7 and a hook against USC. Talk about motivational angles. Does USC even want to be there? Oh, we get to go down the road to San Diego to play in a meaningless game against an ACC program. No, thank you, John.
Yep, agree totally. It's Louisville for me. They're going to care about this. They're going to try to, have that, under Brom there to get that one done and end the season with some positive momentum. This is just that sort of classic angle of a team that was previously far more talented, but is now going to be in a spot playing a backup quarterback in a game that they don't give a hot damn about. Yes, it is a Louisville spot all day long.
Nope. Big no for me. I am staying away. I don't trust Louisville. I certainly don't trust Lincoln Riley. Holy cow. Or anything to do with USC. I can't. The stench of that ACC championship game, I cannot get out of my head. I'm so mad at them. They ruined the entire thing. They could have made this such a clean, easy Final Four, and they blew it. I am staying away from Louisville. I don't trust them.
Texas Bowl, an old, I guess this would be an old Big 8, Big 12 kind of matchup. Texas A&M against Oklahoma State. I don't know what the hell's going on in College Station, but it is what it is. Oklahoma State got absolutely worked in the Big 12 championship game. They lose Jaden Bray, a couple others to the transfer portal, but not hit nearly as hard as everything going on in College Station. Choppy, it's right down the road from you. Aggies are, is this right? Aggies are favored by 2 against the Cowboys?
They are. They are favored. I think I'm gonna lean towards Oklahoma State in this one. I don't trust A&M at all. I don't trust A&M. Give me the points. Actually, I might take money line. Money line is probably the better way to go on the plus 120. I'll take that one, but I don't trust A&M. They've lost a lot of guys. They obviously have a new coach, so it's a big change. Give me Oklahoma State.
John?
Yeah, the only thing I would sort of think is going in A&M's favor is, that it's an interim coach, and we know sort of that initial bump, right? When you have a fired coach and the new guy comes in, and even though he's headed, elsewhere, he's going to Syracuse next season. He is going to have one last game, so I don't know. I tend to believe in that stuff psychologically, where you're looking for just sort of any kind of reason to care. I think he's going to have a lot of guys in that locker room that are, trying to help him go out on a winning note. So I'd say the SEC team here. Give me the SEC team -2 with the interim coach.
Thursday afternoon. Thursday morning in Boston. Boston College playing essentially a home game at Fenway against SMU, who they were thinking maybe they had a shot. Maybe they had a shot to get into the New Year's Six conversation. They didn't, and their consolation prize is you get to go to Boston in December. SMU laying 11. BC stinks, guys. They're bad. So I would I'm not going to bet it because 11 is a little much, but if you had to force me to take a side here, John, it's SMU.
Yeah, I mean, I think SMU is definitely going to get this done at 11. They have not really been hit that hard by the transfer portal, so they have most of their guys that are going to play in this one. And like you said, I mean, Boston College is just bad. And you probably have a little bit of that extra boost of, man, we didn't get in the New Year's Day Bowl, so, let's go out here and let's kick some ass. So I actually, winning your first conference championship there, your first regular season title since 81, I think it's a really good team that can put up points in a hurry. I suspect Boston College will probably not offer that much resistance here. I'll take the 11.
I am right there with you. We had Rhett Lashley, the head coach of SMU, on the show a couple of weeks back after the ACC championship game and after the selection show. He was heated, man. He was heated. That is a sleeping giant program. They are going to the ACC. They are in a recruiting hotbed. Every single Texas high school state champion this year of all the districts was in North Texas. Every single one of them. And that is right their backyard. This is a sleeping giant of a program. It's only the beginning.
If you can't play a football game on a Thursday morning in Boston in December at a baseball stadium, go down the road to New York and do it there, the Pinstripe Bowl. Rutgers against the U. Oh, this is a football game that's being played. That's my hot take on it. And some people will watch it, John.
Yeah, I mean, I would just take the under. What is it, 6.5?
41 and a half, and that's actually come up a little bit.
Yeah, I'm fading that steam, man. I'm fading that steam. I mean, I watched Rutgers actually quite a bit this year, and I liked what they did. But man,
I mean, it's
they
good
just
by Rutgers
really
standards, right? But it's still Rutgers.
Oh, for sure, yeah, exactly. And they play really physical defense. They don't make it easy on you. I don't really see a lot of points being scored in this one. Rutgers is going to take every play clock down to 1. And it's just going to be a grinded out game. So unless we get, an overtime somehow, I think 41.5 is safe. I think the under is the angle here.
Is Schiano still chopping wood like he was doing back in the day? Is he still having guys?
Got a contract extension, didn't he?
I know. You got to look. I always thought he was perfect. He's a perfect fit for that job. Perfect. I'm gonna lean RU for RU this weekend or in that game. RU? I don't know. I'll take Rutgers in the 1.5. It's a home game for them. They care about this. Greg Schiano, man, he's gonna chop wood all day. He's gonna be there like Paul Bunyan.
Well, if you can't chop wood, then toast some Pop-Tarts. Pop-Tarts Bowl makes me want Pop-Tarts. I love Pop-Tarts, especially brown sugar cinnamon. That's my only take on this one. Yeah. NC State, Mack Brown is mad at them. Kansas State, another Big 12 team that's wandering into a bowl game with what kind of motivation, I don't know. I don't know if either of these teams is greatly motivated. You get to go hang out in Orlando for a week. Congratulations. Wildcats favored by 3 now, John.
Yeah, both teams really have gotten hit hard by the opt-outs. Will Howard, we know, is transferring, the starting quarterback there, and then NC State lost its All-American linebacker in Peyton Wilson, who is expected to opt out. I mean, I really have no feel, no real lean on this game. Unfortunately, it's a pass for me. Just want to be honest. I'm going to be transparent with you.
Yeah.
If I don't feel a side in this, I'm not gonna fake it. This is one where I'm happy to pass.
I'm happy to pass this one too. I've got nothing for either one of these teams. Like they're there to fill out the schedule, and occasionally,
Yep.
like NC State is at least, and in K-State, they'll occasionally jump up and win a conference. NC State NC State's got a great track record of sending QBs to the league. It's a wild run, but yeah, give me. I'll stay away.
We might have a couple of sleepers, and not like sleepy games, but I mean games that might actually be sleepers for being good games down in Texas to talk about. Plus the rest of the action on New Year's Day. And we wrap up the BetQLU Bowl extravaganza with our best bets as well. Coming up next, alongside RJ Choppy and John Martin, I'm Chris Mack. This is BetQLU.
You've been listening to BetQLU, presented by BetMGM. If you missed any of the show, listen back anytime on the new and improved Odyssey app. Let's get back to BetQLU, presented by BetMGM.
All right, enough screwing around here, boys. Alongside John Martin and RJ Choppy, I'm Chris Mack. This is BetQLU's Bowl Extravaganza. We've got 8 games left to touch on ever so briefly, and then we'll get everybody our best bets for bowl season before we get out of here. Thanks again for joining us inside your Odyssey app or on the Odyssey Sports YouTube channel, however you get the show. We appreciate you hanging with us this holiday season. I mentioned a couple of games down in Texas that might actually be sneaky good. Let's start with the Alamo Bowl in San Antonio between Arizona and Oklahoma. Arizona laying 3 against the Sooners here, John. Total 62.5. That one is kind of sneaky attractive to me, although I don't know. We no longer have a quarterback at Oklahoma, so that probably starts with where we can play this one.
Exactly. I like Arizona for those reasons. I mean, they barely lost anybody at all to the transfer portal opt-outs. And again, you talk about programs that don't necessarily have that, tradition. Oklahoma's used to playing in big-time games, big-time bowl games. They want to go to the college football playoff. They want to play, in random, December 28th bowls. I can tell you who's going to be more up for this one. There's no doubt about it. Plus, the Arizona coach, find some success here early on. So I like Arizona with the field goal here for sure.
Yeah, I'm not going to play the game, but I do think that John's onto something. I mean, Jed Fish had done an amazing job at Arizona. That's not a great job. I mean, they don't produce a ton historically. Division I players out of that state in high school. Oklahoma barely has to leave the state to get anybody. They just go on and down to Dallas-Fort Worth. They take all the players they want. But they don't have a quarterback, and that's a big part. That's a big problem. They got, they got hit in the transfer portal pretty hard. So I'm going to stay away. I think John's onto something that Arizona, if there is a play, it will be Arizona, but I'm not going to touch it.
Before we get to the Sun Bowl, which is the other game in Texas I think could be sneaky interesting, Gator Bowl, December 29th, Clemson against Kentucky. Clemson laying 4. This is, again, John, this is a football game that will be played, and some people will watch it.
Yeah, I got Kentucky. I think this number was way off when it opened at 7. I grabbed 2 units on Kentucky plus 7. I just never really have believed in Clemson all year long. And Mark Stoops is coming back, so I think guys are excited, guys are fired up, and I just think an SEC team getting 7 where they have a lot of their guys playing is just a missed price. So I think 4 is fine too. Kentucky probably wins this game outright. That's my guess. So yeah. I like the Wildcats in this one.
Dude, this is a massive sharp bet edge to Kentucky in this one, like major. I'm surprised by this number. I've got nothing for Clemson. They've become. It's sad because, when they first started this run, I was like, oh, it's a cute little story. It's Clemson. They've always been like the 8-4 team that never beat Florida State. They've become so hateable. So hateable. Yeah. Everything about them. So, and I don't know how Mark Stoops walked back into that room after that fiasco with A&M, and he reportedly took that job. I have no idea how he walked back in that room and said, hey, guys, I'm here. I love it here. I love Lexington. I'll stay here. They didn't want me down at College Station. They pulled a Shiano on me down there and said, get out. We don't want you here. But I think Kentucky's the team. I think that's the play at 5.5 or whatever it is.
All right. Now. Sun Bowl. Yeah, right around 5.5. Sun Bowl, Oregon State without a head coach or quarterback against Notre Dame in beautiful sunny El Paso. Just don't cross the border, everyone. 6.5. Notre Dame favored by. I don't know if that's. I don't know. I know the motivation angle here is different for these two teams and what especially Notre Dame is used to, but Oregon State, there's got to be a lot of air out of the balloon, I would think, in Corvallis, John.
Yeah, I don't know how to approach this game at all. I mean, an under maybe, I guess, would be the way I look at it because of all the uncertainty. 42.5. I mean, Oregon State's coach is gone. Notre Dame lost everybody that matters to them offensively. So, it's just one of those games that's kind of hallmarked by all the opt-outs and transfers. So I just probably have to take the under because of the uncertainty there.
Man, this is sad because this was a great get for the Sun Bowl to get this game. These are 2 really good teams this year. And the Sun Bowl is it's a good bowl. It's one of the oldest bowls in the country. I actually like Oregon State. I wouldn't necessarily play it, but I'll tell you this: there has been a circle the wagons mentality since their coach left for Michigan State, which I'm not sure that's a upgrade in job. And he's an alumnus. I mean, he was the dang MVP of the Fiesta Bowl in like the early 2000s. And they lose their quarterback, and they lose the other quarterback too. They lose both of them. But man, this is like a us against them kind of game for Oregon State. I think they might sneak up and win this one. I'm not going to play it, but it wouldn't stun me.
All right, we're under 5 minutes, so just give me a side if you got one. John's backyard, they will play this game, the Liberty Bowl, Memphis, Iowa State. John, tell me why we're on the Tigers getting 9.5. No.
Oh no. Memphis lost 2 starting offensive linemen. This is going to be a disaster for them. Give me Iowa State minus 9.5.
All right, Choppy, you get the job of talking about the Music City Bowl, Nashville, Auburn, Maryland. Maryland getting 7. This is, once again, a football game that will be played, and some people will watch it.
Auburn had a really good recruiting class on signing day. Top 10 in the country. Music City Bowl.
Wyoming, Toledo. I know you love Wyoming in the Arizona Bowl, Choppy, right?
I love Wyoming in every bowl they play in. I would give me Wyoming anywhere, especially if there's altitude involved. I'm going to take Wyoming.
Especially if they're okay, altitude. Good call. I like that. ReliaQuest Bowl, John. Wisconsin, LSU. I mean, talk about lack of motivation for LSU after the conversation they were involved in, really almost down to the last couple of weeks. They got the Heisman Trophy winner. Oh, wait, no, I'm good. LSU laying 10 to Wisconsin.
I don't know how you get to LSU minus 10. Not with a backup quarterback. I know Wisconsin had the starting running back opt out, but I don't see how LSU. I can't get to this number. It'd be Wisconsin plus 10 for me.
Choppy, your Vols are playing in the Citrus Bowl against the Hawkeyes. I know you're conflicted about this because it's Iowa and you want it to be a gross under, but it's also Tennessee, and 36.5 is a really gross total.
That's so bad. Iowa could probably score against Tennessee. The biggest question here is with Joe Milton. They're going to take this down to game day on whether he's going to play or not. He may opt out. He's going to play in the Senior Bowl. Obviously his draft stock is about the combine. He put it on Clemson last year, though. I don't know how Iowa scores enough to stay with Tennessee, even though Iowa's got a really, really good defense. Yeah, defense on the field that long, you're gonna get worked eventually.
Yeah. All right, let's give them our best bets, boys, out of all the games we've talked about. The college football playoff semifinals, the other New Year's 6 games, the 25 other bowls that we have touched on in the last 2 hours. John, what's your best bet for bowl season?
It's Big Blue, Kentucky. I got +7, but if you haven't played that yet, I mean, you can't play it now, but I'd still think +4.5, +5 is good. Probably an outright win regardless. So give me Kentucky here as my best bet of bowl season.
Choppy, what's your best bet of the bowl season, and do you have one of your patented pizza money parlays?
I do have a pizza money parlay. I will take Air Force money line and Northwestern money line. That 2-teamer is going to be, 5.5 to 1. That's a little bit. That's a good little boost. Just a 2-teamer, but my best bet. Give me Bama plus the 1.5. I think they win this game by 10.
I like Bama over Michigan. I like Washington over Texas, and we'll talk a little bit more about those games as we get a little bit closer to them. The one I know you guys are probably on the other side of, and you got good arguments for why you're on the other side of it, but I again, despite all the talent that's not playing, that's not showing up, I do think the motivational angle at the very least keeps the Seminoles within 2 touchdowns of Georgia. I don't know if I'm going all the way out on the money line there, plus 400, 4 to 1, 450, whatever it is, but give me Florida State plus 14 down in Miami against Georgia. I do think the motivational angle ends up playing big for them, and that's what I'm going to go with. We'll see. I may end up falling on my face on that one, but once we are done with bowl season, we'll see if we can get producer Zach to get us our best bet records updated and tell you exactly where we're at as we start to pivot towards hoops again in the next week or two. Got to thank everybody who helps make this possible. Thank you for joining us here on the BetQLU Bowl Special as well. Don't forget, wherever you get your podcasts, you can download us as a podcast and take us with you this bowl season. John's warning again, cuidado. That's as bilingual as I get. Find out who's actually playing in these things before, if you're placing a big bet. If you're just having a little bit of fun and you can afford to just have a little bit of fun, hey, by all means, have a little bit of fun. But if these are serious bets for you and you want to put major units on them, as John would say, then by all means, check it all out from every single angle. We appreciate you listening to us and listening to our angles, but double and triple check those things before you put big digits and lots of zeros down on these games, because you don't know what's going to happen as we get down to the last minute and get down to game time decisions and kickoff and all that. But we appreciate you coming to us for some of that information. BetQLU will roll on into the new year. We thank you again for joining us here on the Odyssey Sports YouTube channel as well. For producer Zach, for RJ Choppy, for John Martin, I am Chris Mack. We'll talk to you again soon. Enjoy bowl season. Enjoy the holidays, whether you're spending them with friends who you absolutely love or family you can't stand. Hey, remember, none of us is perfect, and just enjoy the time with them, because you never know. This might be Uncle Lewis's last Christmas or Aunt Bethany's. Enjoy it, and we'll talk to you again soon. This has been BetQLU, the dark side.
You've been listening to BetQLU, presented by BetMGM. If you missed any of the show, listen back anytime on the new and improved Odyssey app.